Hey, thanks for listening to the Things I Learned Last Night. It's my favorite thing to do. My second favorite thing to do is stand-up comedy. And so we'd love for you to come to those shows. This month, I am in Houston, Plano, that's in Texas, Kingsport, Tennessee, Fredericksburg, Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Milton, West Virginia. Where's that at, huh? Raleigh, North Carolina. It's in West Virginia. Indianapolis, Omaha, St. Louis, and Springfield, Missouri. So March 22nd, I am in Nashville, Tennessee, filming my comedy special. It got rescheduled. There's 2 shows on that Sunday. If you're within driving distance, put on a couple episodes, make the drive, come to the special taping. I'd love to see you there. So thanks for coming to shows. Let's get into the episode.
Wrong. Oh, were you trying to feel the braille? I thought you were trying to find my nipple. Hey, man.
What's up? I think you got to leave that in, right? I'm Richard Nixon. You just start telling me all that.
Do you need to fire Archibald Cox?
Was that you being possessed? Oh, wow.
The spirit of Richard Nixon coming out.
I'm being possessed by the spirit of Richard Nixon. Things I learned last night. TILLN it.
Have you ever heard of Watergate?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about today.
Oh, okay. For real?
Yeah, we're gonna cover Watergate.
Oh, okay, great.
Do you know the Watergate, like the story?
I know about Watergate, obviously. I mean, I know the big details, but I don't know. I don't think I could tell you what the plot was.
What?
No, what I'm saying, I couldn't tell you what they were trying to do. You know?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah. So this is Watergate.
Okay.
It's an office plaza, but also a hotel. One of those is a hotel. Can you guess?
The one in the top right. No, It's got those. You see the slanted windows back there?
The slanted windows. Oh,
that's probably a hotel.
Yeah. No, it's this one in the front with the pool.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's the hotel, and then behind that is this business plaza. And
what is the building right behind it that looks like a government building with the big windows?
Probably a government building. This is in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
and it's like on the very edge of the government side of D.C.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like very barely. It's just barely there, barely a part of the action. It's just almost not in it.
And it's the Watergate Hotel.
Well, it's the Watergate Plaza. So this is a whole business park, and the hotel's a part of it.
Okay.
But the majority of it are office buildings.
Right. Is that a helicopter pad up top?
Where? I'm trying to see what.
Oh, no, I don't think it is. I'm looking at but it looks like it could be.
I mean, I'm looking, I think at what you're looking at, and there's it's potential.
Okay.
I will say, given the fact that most of these are office buildings and most of these are government office buildings, and this is the hotel attached to it, I think that's reasonable to assume that maybe there's a helicopter pad on that hotel.
I think it's really funny that in downtown LA, most of the buildings there have helicopter pads, but then they made it illegal to do that. You can't land on.
Really?
Yeah, because they were like the noise.
Oh, the noise is the problem, not the crashing.
Helicopters are loud. I mean, helicopters don't crash that often. What are you talking about?
I mean, they don't crash that often, but when they do, you got blades flying everywhere.
Yeah, but that'd be like if we just say planes can't exist because sometimes they crash.
No.
Or cars can't exist because sometimes they crash.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same.
It's
not the same.
Planes are, I think, worse than helicopters.
I'm not talking about helicopters just flying around. What I'm talking about is helicopters landing in a highly populated area, like on a building, and then just crashing, and then their blades flying everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think the Blades AirPod Pro eject from the helicopter.
What do you mean AirPods?
You know when you drop your AirPods case and they're built to freaking
fly everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know who designed that, but they are built to eject.
Shoot out of there.
Yeah.
It's like that Hyundai, the SUV that they're demoing right now, the electric one that can eject the battery. Have you seen that?
Hyundai, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Watergate Plaza.
How are you saying it?
Hyundai.
No. Watergate.
Oh, Watergate Plaza. Watergate
Plaza?
Plaza.
Plaza.
Plaza. Plaza is not right.
Plaza?
That's you say that you feel like you're throwing up. Plaza. That's gross. It's Plaza.
Okay. I think most people would agree that most people would agree that it's Plaza.
If you think it's Plaza, just type Plaza below.
Hey, in the comment section down below, tell us if you think it's Plaza or Plaza.
And just say Plaza. Don't even tell us. Don't even say I think.
You can do this did you know on Spotify you can leave comments, by the way? People are listening on Spotify. You can leave comments on Spotify. Just comment Plaza or Plaza.
Whichever one you think it is.
Or Hyundai.
Yeah. I like. Well, it's Hyundai, but whatever.
We've had this debate for years.
Okay, so June 17th, Watergate Plaza, after hours.
June 17th, when?
June 7th. Oh, I guess I need to give a year.
Yeah, that was important. So June 17th.
1972. June 17th,
1972.
June 17th, 1972, Watergate Plaza. There is a night security guard by the name of Frank Willis. Here's a cool picture of him. Very 70s security guard.
Yeah.
Such a cool freaking look. Honestly,
Move on.
What the heck? Why can't I talk about how cool the security guard looks?
How weird you get.
I'm not. It's not weird. I just think that this is such a
his arms are so hairy.
I don't think his arms are hairy. You can see enough of him to tell he doesn't have hairy arms. But like, I do think like
it's a cool vibe. Sure,
it's a fly.
Okay,
the 70s was a fly time.
29. 30,
oh my gosh! So he's doing his rounds. It's 1 a.m. He's doing his rounds, looking around the facility, and on one of the doors to the parking garage, he notices that the latch is taped.
Okay.
So he's like, that's weird. And so he peels it off and just keeps doing his rounds. Seems a little like you should maybe look into that. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you're just like someone was doing something. So he keeps doing his rounds, circles back around a little while later. At 1:50 a.m., comes back around and he notices that it's taped back up again. And so he's like, that's really weird. And he's like, one time, maybe someone did it on accident.
Maybe somebody taped the latch of the door on accident.
They were just walking by.
Maybe somebody just had some loose tape on their hand and they just happened to...
I'm going to the garage.
It's the 70s. They're going...
Yeah. Discoing out the door. And then you, in that movement, that disco movement,
where'd
you
my
catch
tape
it.
go?
I lost my freaking tape.
And I just happened to latch the door that leads to the room that has all the documents.
And you go home to your wife. You're like, I lost my tape at work today.
No, you don't, because it's the 70s. You don't talk to your wife about what happened. You go home, you get a beer out of the fridge, you sit down, your kids in the living room. They're like, Dad, and you're like, shut up.
Shut up.
And your wife's like, hey, dinner's almost ready. It should have been ready when I got home.
Should have been ready already. Should have been ready already. I got no tape in my hand.
Go help your mother.
Go help your mother.
You come in, you sit down.
You sit down.
Your kids eat, and they go, can I be excused? I want to go watch TV. You go, of course you do.
Of course.
Don't want to spend time with your old man.
Of course. You just want to watch Johnny Carson.
And then your wife is like, so today I went and did, and you listen to all the things she did that day, and she doesn't ask you once about your day.
She never even asked.
You go to bed and you lay there and you look at the ceiling.
Lay in bed.
Look at the popcorn ceiling in your house.
And out loud you say, I need a cigarette.
Out loud you go, I need a cigarette. And so you sit up. It's the 70s, so you smoke it inside.
Just ash all over the bed.
There's a hole in the blanket where you usually put it out at night. You go, and then you toss it over there. Your dog eats it. And
he loves cigarettes.
Because you saw a commercial that was fine.
Yeah, dogs love cigarettes.
Dog loves cigarettes.
Camel.
Yeah, and you go wake your kid. You're like, I was kind of mean to my son.
Yeah,
he's 8. I should go share a cigarette with him. So you go in. It's the 70s. They don't know about stuff. You go in there. You go, I'm sorry, son. And your son's like,
it's okay.
That's all right, Dad. I get it. That's all right.
How was your day, Dad?
Yeah. They made. Can you believe in school every morning we got to say the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Bunch of commies.
And they only recently added the under God part. But if I forget it, they act like I'm some kind of whatever, Dad.
Whatever, Dad.
I'm going on and on. What happened to your? You did what?
You lost your tape. His
You
voice
need this
isn't
more than I
raspy
do.
anymore. His rasp just goes away.
Dad takes a
What
cigarette.
Both cigarettes. He's got both cigarettes now.
Yeah, son, I lost my tape today.
My tape.
It was a beautiful moment for the dad and the son. And he goes back into his room. His wife's asleep. She snores. Puts the cigarette on the
out.
blanket. Tosses one of the dogs. Puts the other cigarette out on the blanket. Tosses. Lays down in bed. And just goes, I'll worry about it tomorrow. Meanwhile, while he's doing that, security guard, hot, by the way. Security guard, hot. Parentheses, hot, is roaming the building and goes, whoa.
I didn't say it was hot. I just said he looked cool. There's a difference
Security
between hot and
guard?
cool.
Hot. It's roaming Watergate building and then sees that the door is latched.
Yeah, well, not latch. It's taped.
It's taped
The
open
latch is
so that
taped.
it does not latch.
So it doesn't latch, yeah. And so 150, he rolls back around, sees it's taped again.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, maybe this wasn't old John losing his tape like I thought in my head. This whole
Old
story.
John. Every night.
This whole storyline in my head.
I need a cigarette. Gets up. His kid's like, yeah, they're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. He's like, I left my tape. He's like, you left your tape? He's like, yeah, and they call me Old John.
I'm 31.
Old John, I'm 31. And then, yeah, my life doesn't look like what I thought it was going to look like when I was 23.
But I'm not
I got
old.
a good job. I play with tape all day.
And my name is Bob.
I'm-
I don't know where the John came from.
So maybe that wasn't Old John. Maybe something else was going on.
Yeah.
Something else is afoot.
So he calls the police, and luckily, there just happened to be an unmarked police cruiser nearby.
Uh-huh.
They were out doing, what are you looking at?
Nothing?
Okay. They were out doing rounds looking for drugs. It's the war on drugs. This is before the war on drugs. Okay, stop. What are you doing?
I was trying to read one of your tattoos earlier, and then you went, what are you looking at? And it was really
This one?
accusatory and mean.
This one?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I just
This one?
saw it. There you got a new one. I was just looking at it.
Okay.
And then you were like, what are you looking at? Okay. So then I was like, what am I looking at? And I just started, all right.
Whatever, man.
Whatever, dude.
Whatever, bro. So he calls the police,
Mhm.
and there was a police cruiser nearby that was unmarked, trying to catch people doing drugs because they were just rolling up. Yeah, it's the 70s. And so they pull up and they go into the office building.
Okay.
Meanwhile, across the way at the hotel, there is there's a guy by the name of what's his first name? I know his last name is Baldwin. Let me grab his first name real quick. Alfred Baldwin III.
Close.
And so his job at this whole event is he is monitoring the situation from the hotel across the plaza. So he's in his room with his binoculars, watching the movie or watching the event unfold, keeping his eyes on the scene, making sure everything.
And
is
he's
safe.
at the hotel
Yes.
watching that office that they're breaking into.
Yes, and so he's like their Overwatch.
Okay. And there's people breaking into the office.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
he's got them on radio, talking to them, making sure everything looks like it's safe.
Okay.
And so these cops show up. Coincidentally, Baldwin was watching with binoculars the situation, but he's also in the hotel room and he's watching a movie on TV. So he gets distracted and he misses the cops show up. But then, like,
Your lookout has one job.
it's lookout.
Is to look out.
Yeah. And so they were on the 8th floor. What they were doing, they're installing a listening device in the DNC office, and he's watching on the binoculars, watching the movie. Cops come in, misses it, checks
What
on the
movie
binoculars.
do you think is so good that this heist that you're pulling off is like, I can't, but I mean, anytime Sleepless in Seattle is on, I'm going to watch it.
I can't miss it. What movie is that for you that you just can't not watch?
Oh, like if I'm scrolling?
Yeah, and you see that movie
back when I was changing channels.
Yeah,
like
back when that movie was on. That happened.
Golly. I don't know. There's some movies that I'm like, yeah, I'll watch. You know? Lion King, animated.
Mm-hmm.
Because Nala, parentheses hot, is...
parentheses hot. Honestly, though.
I don't know. We don't scroll channels anymore now, you know?
Yeah, but I had a list of those that I would stop and watch anytime.
Yeah, what are those?
One of them was Remember the Titans.
Oh, Shawshank Redemption, for sure. Every time I see that, that's the main one that I stumble upon sometimes, and I go, oh, I'll watch it again.
I'll watch it again, yeah. Four Brothers was definitely on the list for me. Yeah. Holes. Stop and watch Holes anytime that's on.
I love Holes.
Freaking big fan of Holes. But he was watching Attack of the Puppet People on TV, which never seen it. This is a movie from probably before the 70s, honestly.
Doll Dwarfs versus the Crushing Giant Beasts.
Yeah.
You know. Okay.
I mean, it's like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids a long time before the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Sure.
And before the kids.
Oh, it is, because that's a kitchen knife. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And that's probably a dog.
So, okay.
Not a monster.
So, he's distracted.
Yeah, he's watching this instead of the people who are committing a serious crime that he's supposed to be watching their backs.
And while he's looking away, the police show up?
The police show up, and they start sweeping the building. And he's kind of like, looking over his shoulder at the movie. And then he notices a light on the 8th floor turns on. And so he hurries his binoculars over there, and he watches, and he realizes it's police officers sweeping the building. So he gets on the radio, and he says, hey, some cops just got to your floor. And he was like, our floor? You were supposed to tell us if they showed up at all. And he's like, yeah, I don't know where they came from. They must have been in the building the whole time.
Yeah, I was...
I don't know what to tell you. I can't tell you. I can't.
What's less embarrassing?
Yeah. What?
I got stuck in traffic.
You've been
in the hotel the whole time. Yeah.
I met you there.
I went to the ice machine. I came back.
There was traffic in the hallway.
I ran into a kid who's smoking.
I talked to him for a while. He had a lot to say about his dad.
I don't know.
Hey, thanks for watching our show. If you like it, a great way to help out is by being a Patreon supporter. Doing that helps make the show possible, but it also gets a lot of perks for you. You can get every episode a week early ad-free. You get access to a Discord where you can meet a lot of other people who love the show and actually hang out with Jaron and I every month on a hangout. And we're also in that Discord chat all the time, talking with people, talking about episodes and just random stuff in life. It's super fun. There's a way to get birthday messages, a free gift, merch discounts in there. So there's a lot of really great reasons to be a Patreon supporter. You get a lot of benefits out of it. And it also makes the show keep happening. So if that sounds great to you, you can go to support.tilln.com or tilln.com/support, or just tilln.com and search around until you find the links and become a Patreon supporter. We really appreciate you doing that. But if not, right back to the episode, right?
Okay, so
yeah,
they're on the floor.
Yeah.
And they get caught.
Yeah, so they hid behind a partition in one of the office building, in one of the offices, and obviously the police found them, and so they get arrested. Some of them attempted to flee. They didn't make it very far.
How many is some of them? How many are there?
So there's 5 of them.
Okay,
they all end up getting arrested. Here they are.
Okay.
Very mob guys. James McCord Jr.
I love that you started saying the names. I love because I saw it. That's the first name I saw, and then I saw one of the names at the end too, and I was like, and then you went James McCord Jr. Oh,
Virgilio Gonzalez,
yeah,
Frank Sturgis, Eugenio Martinez.
No, what was it? Don't try to hide behind
Eugenio Martinez and Bernard Baker.
Okay,
and so. And then their lookout was across the street.
And who is a lookout?
He's not in this list.
Okay.
And so these guys all get arrested. and they begin this long investigation into what's going on.
Okay.
And to there's a lot to cover here, so I'm going to kind of truncate a lot of this story. They go into trial, and in the process of the trial, they find out that this is the second break-in. And so they had actually broke in on May 28th.
Okay.
And so they broke in, they installed some listening devices in the office, but they were bad. They weren't getting good signal from them. So they acquired higher quality listening devices to put in there. And to be able to spy on the convention. And it was interesting in the investigation, they were, this becomes highly televised.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a time when there was 4 channels.
Yeah.
So it was highly viewed, not just highly televised.
Right.
And there was a couple of reporters who really dug into this to try to figure out the storyline. And it's not really, it is clear. It seems like the reporters did a lot of the investigative work that started to really break this case open. And it's interesting in the investigation, you would think that the Justice Department running this investigation would be the one to find a lot of these things. But the work of these reporters started to open up.
Why are you sitting like that?
I'm fixing.
You would think.
I'm fixing my earbuds. Okay. I'm fixing my
You would think that the
All right, I'll stay.
judicial system would do most of the stuff, but it was reporters. Reporters, parentheses, hot, uncovered a lot of stuff because they planted some listening devices legally. And you just reached up and I was like, oh, that's normal. And then you went other hand. And then you sat here like this.
Well, I was trying to tighten this thing back here, and I was trying to do it with one hand, and I couldn't get the right amount of tension. So I had to get the other hand up there so I could pull it and actually tighten that. And then I got comfortable. It was a comfortable way to have my arms up here like this, so I sat like this.
Yeah, don't do that.
You couldn't
Don't do that.
I'm just gonna stay like this.
Get uncomfortable. It made me. I'm so mad.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they had snuck in May 21st. They'd already put some listening devices, and then they're like,
May
okay,
28th.
May 28th. They've already put some listening devices in.
Yes.
And then June 15th, the ones they put in earlier didn't work as well.
They weren't working, and they were just getting like fuzz back.
Okay,
from those,
so they
had
needed
to install some new
go
ones.
put new ones in.
Yeah. And so a couple of reporters from the Washington Post, let me get their names because they are actually very significant people. Woodward and Bernstein. Those are the 2 journalists. They don't have first names.
They do.
Hold on. You want me to get it?
Bob Woodward.
You know them?
I know Woodward, yeah.
Yeah, Bob Woodward. And Bernstein, let me see.
Bears.
Carl Bernstein.
Carl Bernstein, that's right.
Yeah. They did a lot of legwork to try to figure out what was going on.
Right.
And the work that they did, they eventually they followed this money trail. These robbers had a cashier's check that they were paid to do this action. And they followed the money trail of that cashier's check. And long story short, it was apparent that it had been laundered for a little bit, that money. And eventually they traced it back to a campaign donation to the Nixon re-election campaign for his next presidential term. And along that line, they started to uncover there was this organization that was put together called the CRP, which was the Committee for Re-election of the President. A lot of people started calling it CREEP, which love that. But this group came together to try to do anything that they could to get Nixon his re-election.
Right.
And a little bit about Nixon, we're not going to dive too deep into his background, but it's shady. It's shady. He had a shady past.
I am not a crook.
There was a lot.
I feel like if you got to say that, that kind of shows where you are.
It's gonna,
you know,
if it's a question,
yeah,
and then So there was a lot of things leading up to this in his career before becoming president.
You got to watch What We Do in the Shadows, the vampire show I keep telling you to watch.
Nixon in it?
Well, there's an episode where they learn that they can hypnotize other vampires.
Yeah.
And one of the vampires, they can only do it when they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And he hypnotizes them to speak like Richard Nixon. So all episode, that guy is like, and he does like all these speeches. He goes, we had a dog.
Yeah.
And I loved that dog.
Yeah.
And he goes, isn't this a Richard Nixon speech?
It clocks it.
Very funny episode.
So the this money gets chased back.
Yeah.
And they
to the Nixon campaign.
To the Nixon campaign. And specifically to this CRP group, which is a part of Nixon's inner circle that's working to try to get him reelected. And it's interesting when you look at a lot of their behaviors, because it's a lot of I don't know if you would call it illegal, but it's not.
I wouldn't.
Legal.
I certainly would not call it illegal.
They do a lot of things that are like.
Would you call it illegal?
No.
No, you wouldn't. What about you, Blair? Yeah. Put in the comments what you would call it.
Illegal or what? Illegal. Ugh, that's hard to say. I thought I was going to gag on that word. Illegal. Ugh.
Yeah,
hurts
really
my throat
playing
to
up
say
how
that.
bad you are at that. I wouldn't call it illegal. Stupid.
This group, the point is, this group did a lot of things that were in a gray area.
Morally
illegal,
questionable.
Yeah.
Legally
gray
maybe
area.
within bounds. Yeah.
It was
depending on the interpretation.
Yeah.
Could be like, it's not explicitly illegal.
Yeah, except for this. Because what they did is they were wiretapping
that's illegal.
DNC office. Yeah, they broke into the DNC office twice, wiretapped it, laundered money to pay a group of, these were Cuban expats who were involved in the Bay of Pigs invasion. That whole crisis. They were CIA informants that the CIA used for the whole Bay of Pigs mess.
Yeah.
And so a lot of muddiness and a lot of definitely illegal actions going on here. And so this investigation is going on. And while this investigation is going on, the prosecutor on the case pulls a witness from the CRP.
Okay.
And the big question that pretty much everyone in the public had as this is going on is now it's starting to get connected back to Nixon's campaign.
Right.
So the question is Nixon aware of this? And if he was aware of this, like,
when?
Yeah, how involved?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the question was straight up asked, was Nixon aware of this, and when was he aware of this? And this kind of blew open the case in a different level, because the person that was involved in this was everybody inside of Nixon's cabinet was a part of this group that I think as the administration went along, they all kind of got into a point where I don't know if it's not really clear if they all I'm trying to figure out the way to say this. They did a lot of things that I think they knew they shouldn't have been doing, but they got in so deep that they all began working together to make sure they didn't get caught for the things that they were doing. And a lot of these people were lawyers in a previous career, so they were really good at understanding the law and understanding the system.
Sure.
And just before everything kind of broke that the Oval Office was involved in this, there was this meeting at Camp David, or maybe it wasn't Camp David. It was one of their off-site locations. I don't think Camp David's right. They're at one of their off-site locations.
Okay.
And it was kind of one of these meetings where one of his cabinet members, who ended up being the witness at this juncture in the trial, realized, they are setting me up to be the fall guy. They didn't explicitly say this. Nothing obvious happened there, but he just kind of realized, he's like, I think they're setting me up
I'm being set up.
Yeah, to be the fall guy in this situation. And so he comes into this trial within a couple days of that event. And he's like, I need to make sure that I'm not the fall guy.
Right.
And so he comes in and he basically opens the book. And he says, Nixon thought it would be a good idea to install listening devices in the Oval Office. And so there's a device in the Oval Office that the second anyone starts talking, it starts recording. And so we have on tape everything that's ever happened in the Oval Office. And so the prosecution was like, yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
And so they put forth a subpoena. And what's really interesting is a subpoena comes forward, and this let me find this. Hold on.
This is also the time of the era where I don't know. We talk a lot about how there was times where you could just run away and live somewhere else, and you could just start over.
Mm-hmm.
But like this was their AI got me. You know what I'm saying? Like recording devices. That was like they're like, oh my gosh, anything could be a recording device.
Yep.
We could be like, there's nowhere that's safe.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And there was a time not that long ago, in relative to human history, where it's just like, yeah, if you looked around and you were the only two in a room, you knew you were in the clear.
Yeah. True.
You know?
Unless you were in one of Nixon's offices, because he did this throughout the White House.
No. But I'm talking about like, the 1800s, where it's you look around and it's like, hey,
it's just us two.
It's just us two. If we talk quiet, no one else can hear us.
It's just us.
Me.
And now, if this gets out, I kill you.
I think about a lot. Like,
yeah,
that sounds weird. How often I think about this, but like, there's nowhere to escape that CCTV or Ring doorbells or traffic cameras. Like, there's just nowhere you can go.
Yeah.
That you won't not get caught.
Yeah.
And sounds sketchy for me to say that I think about that, but whatever.
Because you're doing all sorts of sketchy things.
Well, no, I am not a crook. I do not do that. I sound like Alex Jones a little bit. The same thing happened to Alex Jones. You watched that documentary, right?
About Alex Jones?
Alex Jones versus the Truth?
Yeah.
Did you watch that? It was during the Sandy Hook trial, because the Sandy Hook parents sued him because, he lied and said that it was all made up and that it never happened. And so they were trying to prove that he knew that it had happened. Like, he knew it was real. And even after he knew it was real, he was still on his show being like, maybe. Mm-hmm. And so they were trying to prove that in the internal documents of their team, they were talking about how they knew the stuff they were saying on the show was fake, right? And there's a moment in the trial, I remember this going viral. I remember watching this happen in real time. There's a moment in the trial where the lawyers for the prosecution had asked for them to search Alex's phone. And if there's anything on your phone that mentions Sandy Hook, you have to submit that to Discovery. And they said there was nothing on his phone that mentioned it, right? And so the prosecution stands up and says, Mr. Jones, do you realize that 11 days ago, your lawyer accidentally sent me an entire digital copy of your phone? Not just the messages we asked for, but the entire device. So we searched it and we found messages about Sandy Hook, which you claimed in Discovery did not exist. And it's just that moment where it's just like, yeah. And he asked him point blank, he goes, before you answer this question, I just want to be clear. You know what perjury is, right?
That was such a freaking dope.
And it was just freaking get him. And then that jury honestly did not punish him hard enough.
Yeah.
Because that jury was like, yeah, you owe the defendants a couple $1 million. And it was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, then the one in Texas.
Yeah.
That was the one in Texas. The one in Connecticut.
Yeah, they came down really hard.
They came down hard on him. And then that's where he's. Anyway, Alex Jones is currently.
Which makes sense.
He owes like $1 billion to the families of Sandy Hook.
That he's never going to pay.
That he's never going to pay. And he's hidden his assets and his family. And it's really sad.
Doing InfoWars again.
But anyway, but it's the same kind of thing where it was just like, oh, you got got. Like you got.
Yeah.
And it was stuff that was like very clearly like they were running the numbers. Like every time they mentioned Sandy Hook, they would get a bunch of donations or a bunch of purchases from their store. So they started running more stories about Sandy Hook, even though he was publicly saying he knew it was real.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was so,
yeah.
the corruption that exists just in that level of person. I can't imagine. So did you find what you were looking for the Oval Office?
Yeah. So there was the prosecutor on the case. His name was Archibald Cox, and Archibald Cox put forward a subpoena to get these tapes. And obviously Nixon was like, we can't let those tapes get out.
Yeah.
And so Nixon calls the Attorney General. It was Attorney General Elliot Richardson on October 20th, 1973. And he says, hey, you need to fire Archibald Cox. And the Attorney General's like, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, no, you really we need to protect presidential.
Please.
He's like, we need to protect presidential privilege. Like the president has immunity to act in his, and the Attorney General was like, that's not true. And the fact that you're asking me to do that is very sketchy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to resign from my post. And so he resigns, and the Deputy Attorney General, William Ruckelshaus, takes over.
It was, your face had such an ease at the end where you looked relieved that the name was over. Ruckelshaus. Oh, thank God I made it through that. That's what your face looked like. Your face was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's so funny. William Ruckelshaus. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you like the show, you want to support us, we've got merchandise that you can get, and it's good stylish stuff that I made. I put a lot of work into this stuff, so it's great to find other TILLN fans in the wild and be like, wait a minute, I know that shirt. And so, we would love for you to do that. You can pop over to shop.tilln.com, or there's a QR code, or there's a link in the description. There's plenty of ways to find it. We promise we made it super easy. So thanks for supporting the show, and thanks for listening.
He calls the new Attorney General.
Yeah,
and he says, hey, man, Elliot, crazy that he just resigned, isn't that? I'm going to need you to fire Archibald Cox. And he's like, really? Why? And he's like,
I just need you to do it.
He's the presidential immunity. We got to protect it. He's like, I'm not going to do that. That's not how this works. And he's like, and honestly, the fact that you're asking me to do that is pretty sketchy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to resign. And so he ends his post. Same night, he took it. And this goes through another Attorney General and another Attorney General until finally the Solicitor General takes the position as Attorney General. His name is Robert Bork. And he gets the call from Nixon. And Nixon's like, hey,
Mr. Bork.
He's like, welcome to the office. All of your direct reports just quit. Crazy, huh? I have something I need to ask you.
What's this night called? This is called something, right?
Well, they call it the Saturday Night Massacre.
That's right. How many people ended up resigning?
3 people resigned. The 4th person is the one who ended up saying. And it was Robert Bork was like, all right, Mr. President, I'll do whatever
Cox. You want.
Yeah. And so he calls Archibald Cox and he says, hey, the Attorney General and the other one, they all resigned. I'm now the guy. You're fired. And so he gets fired. The public finds out about this and they're all like, that's very sketchy. And so there's this huge public protest widespread across the nation. Everyone's like, there's obvious corruption going on here.
Yeah.
The replacement issues a subpoena. And it pretty much gets to this point where it's like, we can't outrun this. We're going to have to turn over the tapes. So they turn over the tapes and they call them the smoking gun tapes because they listen through the tapes. And in those tapes, there's all sorts of recordings about these events before they happen. And in those recordings, Nixon himself is saying, well, we got to pay him $25,000 from the campaign about the people who are going to break in, talking about the plans to break in. And there's, in fact, this is really interesting, 18 minutes were missing from the tapes.
Right.
There's 18 minutes of time that were just gone. And at the time, the story was, when we were collecting these tapes to bring it over to you, our receptionist accidentally overwrote 18 minutes. It was an accident. She came forward and she acknowledged it. She said, I did it on accident. I didn't mean to do it. I'm so sorry.
So wait. So the prosecution's like, there's 18 minutes of tape missing. He goes home, grabs a beer. Sits at the kitchen table, his wife. I'm like, dinner's almost ready. You should have been ready already. Kids sit down. And they're like, Dad. And he's like, yeah. You know, they're like, can we go watch TV? Yeah, go watch the dolls versus the whatever. You know?
the dog thing.
He gets in bed at night. And he's like, I need a cigarette. So he gets out of bed, goes to his 8-year-old's room.
Wakes him up,
goes, hey, buddy.
I need you to smoke with me.
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
How do you feel about a smoke?
Buddy. Hey, good morning, buddy. Hey, would you...
Oh, no, it's not morning. It's 11 p.m.
You want a cigarette? Sure. And they light up together. This show's all about dads and sons bonding. It's the 70s, though, so they're bonding in different ways. And they're sitting there. It's like, I need 2 of them. He's like, Dad, what's wrong? What happened today? Did something happen? Well, son.
Seem perturbed, father.
We've lost 18 minutes of the tape. You lost the tape? All that for a you lost the tape callback. Really funny. The build up, you knew where it was going from the beginning of the story, but the payoff. My new special's coming out soon, and you know, if you like that kind of jokes, whatever, dude.
So this happens.
So 18 minutes of tape is missing.
So the Watergate break-in happens in 72.
Right.
This whole legal proceeding takes years. He ends up getting reelected in the middle of the process because the election was early
crazy
in that process.
Yeah.
So it was early enough that it was like the public wasn't, I don't know if the public wasn't aware of what was going on, but it wasn't as big of a deal yet. They didn't know everything that was a part of the story. And so they hear the tapes, they find out the thing's missing. The storyline is initially, the receptionist overwrote it. Sidebar, in 2003, I think it was, they did some forensics on it, and they discovered that it was not an accident. They're like, this was very intentional removal of the...
Took them until 2003 to know that?
Well, I think it was like they finally had the technology where they could examine these to prove. Yeah. Everybody knew. But that was the first time they could conclusively prove that was what happened. And so this ends up going before the Supreme Court. And the defense of the...
What's the question for the Supreme Court?
Well, so the defense of Nixon and his whole administration was that the presidential immunity argument.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
So they said because of his position as president...
So they're acknowledging what he did was illegal.
Yeah.
Sorry, illegal.
Well, they use the phrase executive privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he said he has the privilege to take these actions for whatever official means. And the Supreme Court is like, no, the literal ruling is no person, not even the president of the United States, is completely above the law. That was July 24th, 1974. So in the House Judiciary Committee, they then put forth in July 27th of 1974, 3 articles of impeachment for obstruction of justice, misuse of power, and contempt of Congress. And so he gets ahead of it on August 8th, and he announces he's going to resign instead. He's like, you're not going to impeach me, I'm going to resign.
Yeah.
And so he resigns. Gerald Ford.
Is that where he does his famous...
Well, he had been doing that a lot. That was his thing.
That was his thing?
Yeah, that was his thing, was the deuces. He said that I'm not a crook thing when everybody was trying to, like, before the tapes even came in, it was like the question of whether he was involved. He's like, I'm not a crook.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, that might have been the best impression I've ever done in my life. I know it wasn't great. But I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not an impression guy, and I'm pretty impressed.
Do it again.
I'm not a crook.
No, that was way worse.
Should I try one more time?
No.
Okay.
I think we get it.
Okay.
So he resigns.
Are
you telling the story super fast? You trying to get out of here? What's your deal?
Look, there's a lot to this story.
There's more.
I'm trying to stay to the main story.
Okay.
And not get in all the other like side stories.
Okay.
So he resigns. He gets out of Dodge. and escapes.
What does he do after? What did he do after he left?
After his presidency?
Yeah.
That's a good question, actually. Let's see. Post-presidency, 1974 to 1994. He moved to
20 years.
San Clemente, California. And while he was there, he spent a while just chilling, it looks like. He spent a while just kind of doing nothing. And then he got back into public life, apparently. I don't know what that means. It doesn't say.
He had a puppet show at the library. Is what it means. George W. is a painter now. Nixon was like, I got to figure out.
Yeah.
He just loves holding his hands.
He worked for the Coast Guard, apparently.
Puppets on there.
Yeah. He took a golf cart to his office at the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And did public appearances. It looks like he became an author. He wrote a book, the Memoirs of Richard Nixon.
Sure.
Obviously.
The audiobook's missing 18 minutes.
Yeah. Opened his library, did some conventions, some public.
What's his book called? If I Did It?
It's Memoirs of Richard Nixon, but if I did it, would be crazy. And then he died in 94.
Okay.
So, I mean,
and
sounds
then you
like...
were born.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. He died in 94. Let's see exactly.
May 12th.
April 18th. So about almost a month to the day. Pretty close to a month to the day.
I don't know,
There's a chance.
I don't know.
There's a chance.
I think he's in there.
I'm Nixon incarnate. That's why that.
Me and Alex both were like, no, I don't like you going, I'm
not
Nixon incarnate. I'm Richard Nixon. You just start telling people that.
Do you need to fire Archibald Cox?
Was that you being possessed?
Oh,
wow.
By the spirit of Richard Nixon coming out.
That's going in the intro, I know for sure. It's just you being like, I'm being possessed by the spirit of Richard Nixon. Okay. So he resigns.
Yeah. And so he resigns. He kind of goes on to your very typical post presidential life, right?
Okay.
Meanwhile, in very typical fashion, 40 of his cabinet officials were indicted or jailed on various charges, most of them serving anywhere from a few months to a few years.
Yeah.
All of the people who were a part of the burglary did multi-year sentences for that burglary. And so it's pretty phenomenal
that he just gets to go.
He gets impeached and he gets to go move to California and just kind of chill.
While 40 other people pay the consequence.
Yeah, of his actions. And I will say I don't understand this after seeing the storyline of the smoking gun tapes, because in the smoking gun tapes, he straight up says, we got to have the guys break in and we got to pay him for it. And so it's he's a part of the planning of the whole process.
Right.
But if you read the reports, everyone's like, well, we don't know if he planned it. We know he covered it up, but we don't know if he planned it. But it's in the tapes, he says we got to pay the guys. And so it's he has to know.
Yeah.
If he's saying we got to pay the guys. So I don't understand. But I don't know. I guess they were losing your job as president's enough, I guess, that everyone just didn't give him an actual
It's the
punishment.
same thing, though, of I don't know. I think the idea was that if we prosecute a president, then that just opens the door for every president to be prosecuted for everything all the time.
I mean,
right?
I mean,
is what was said to justify it. I don't think that's true. I am of the position that if they committed a crime, they committed a crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a crime.
I agree. Yeah, that was a crime.
And so, yeah, but I think that at that time,
and even if
they saw that as a win enough, that was okay, he's never going to be able to run again.
Yeah.
And that was enough for them.
Well, even if you use the argument of the executive privilege argument, it doesn't even make sense because the event of Watergate it was not. You're not doing anything to protect the American people. You're trying to make sure you get elected again.
Right.
And so it's like, even if the argument is that, like, I don't feel like that's
right. But I'm not saying from a legal position. I am saying, let's say the next party in power, the next president, then brings legal action against the previous president.
Yeah.
Justified or unjustified, from a public perception.
Yeah.
That is what dictators in third world countries do.
Yeah.
Right? And so they were trying to avoid that. I think by doing that in the 70s, they then opened the door for us letting people get away with stuff.
I think after that it became a thing. He just got a slap on the wrist. And he actually broke the law. I'm just doing things that are questionable.
And I think with their fear of it going too far this way, it went too far the other way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So,
but this had a massive impact. Obviously, the public trust impact is gigantic.
Right.
I don't think people have trust the office of the president since this happened.
Yeah.
There was definitely a much different respect, I would say. Not even respect. I would say people expected the president was kosher, was doing everything in a very legal manner, and was doing things with the best of intentions before this. But then after this, this has been this cloud over the country ever since of like, well, I don't know, like, is it legit? They're all crooks. He said he's not a crook, but he was clearly a crook. So it changed this public perception. It also, this was this turning moment where journalists became celebrities. Woodward and Bernstein, they both won Pulitzer Prizes.
Yep.
And this was the most interesting thing on TV for like 3 years. And so the reporters who were at the front of this, it kind of changed the news.
Yeah.
And it began this shift where the news went from this honestly pretty dull thing you did to stay informed to entertainment.
Yeah.
And so there's a shifting moment there. And then there was a massive reform to our legal system. There's the new Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 came out of this to help make sure that we weren't doing sketchy things like this to like listen to people without their knowledge and things like that. And then there was also within...
It's so interesting. In some states, there's like the one-party consent law for phone call recording.
Yeah.
And then in other states, there's two-party consent. Like both people have to know that it's happening.
Yeah.
That's interesting that they left that up to states to decide.
Yeah, that is crazy. And then because so many of the people within his cabinet were barred lawyers, there was new professional responsibility requirements where even when you were outside of like they were in a public service capacity, but they still are now beholden to all these professional requirements,
right?
Or else they lose their license with the bar association. And so a bunch of things changed with that. And then obviously, like everything's gate now. Everything that is a scandal is Deflategate,
right?
Emailgate, Pizzagate, like all of it just gets gate after it. I think they said that up to the numbers like over 200 of these scandals have just gotten gate added to the back of it. Yeah.
TILLN Gate.
TILLN Gate. Yeah. And it's interesting because we don't have to talk about that. Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. I started, and I'm going to show growth. Never mind.
Okay.
But yeah. So Nixon lost his job. A bunch of other people went to jail. That is the Watergate scandal.
So, how long between the planning and the execution of the thing? Do you know that?
I don't think we know initially when it was planned. I do know we know the initial break-in was May 28th.
Right.
And then we know the second break-in was...
And that was 72?
1972.
And then he resigned August 8th. What year?
74.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow,
a couple of years of this whole scandal being in the public limelight. And so it's most likely that there was a few months before that. But I think what's clear is like they installed those listening devices in the Oval Office.
Right.
And so they really liked the fact that they could just listen to stuff. And there's definitely a question of like, they did this to the DNC office at Watergate.
Yeah. Where else did they do this to?
Yeah. Do we know of... We don't know.
That's just the one they got caught with.
Yeah. And nobody would have known about the White House thing had this whole event not happened. If
What were they doing
Oval
with the
Office-
White House tapes? Do we know?
Listening to stuff, listening to
Yeah, but-
conversations.
That's weird.
That is really insane to me that they would record that. It sounds like blackmail. Like, I don't know why else you're recording all
I
these
don't know what else you
conversations.
have, but I would say,
Yeah.
like, try to hold that
Which,
over someone.
I mean, I guess
Is pretty mobster activity to do, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. I guess, though, just kind of thinking out loud, we record all of our video calls nowadays anyways.
We record this podcast.
Is this blackmail? Are you blackmailing me? Jaron's blackmailing me?
That's right.
The spirit of Richard Nixon doesn't like being blackmailed. The spirit of Richard Nixon says I'm the only one who blackmails around here.
I gotta fiddle off the spirit of Richard Nixon. The spirit of Richard Nixon compels you. The spirit of Richard Nixon compels you to listen to another episode. You should listen to the Charles J. Cateau episode. And speaking of presidents, he killed one. So go listen to that episode and share this podcast with somebody that you know would like it. And if you can't wait for next week, it's available right now on Patreon. So, I think I said all the stuff from the outros. Anything else you want to say? Oh, fiddle off or whatever. I don't know.